Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, affects only 1% of the world's population, ranging from high functioning to those with more severe symptoms, including the inability to speak or even interact with the rest of the world. Sometimes what we see in the real world is quite different than how we see it portrayed in media, especially with Hollywood. In 2016, Ben Affleck starred as a mysterious but brilliant man with high-functioning autism in The Accountant, a film that clearly prioritizes action and an embellished image of autism in the name of entertainment. But does that really matter at the end of the day? Let's find out. Christian Wolff, played by Ben Affleck, is a mathematical genius who works as a financial consultant for criminal organizations eager to hide their dirty money. While being investigated by the Treasury Department, Wolff agrees to help an accounting clerk at a robotics firm look into fraud at her company, but the assignment will prove far more dangerous than he could have ever anticipated. Whenever you deal with a real-life disorder such as autism, it can be incredibly difficult to do it in a non-offensive manner, especially when nobody behind the scenes who was a part of the creative process had ASD. Being a parent of a child with autism, I know a thing or two about the disorder, but I'm also limited in my own understanding because I myself don't have it. So I went into The Accountant with as much of an open mind as I could muster, and I'll be honest, I definitely did have a great time with the movie. In general, as a film, it plays out like an exciting twist on what feels like an action spy film. You have all the same moving parts, including a possible person in the ear helping out the hero duke it out with all those different villains that you love to hate, yet at the same time, it's still incredibly fresh and original in its approach. Ben Affleck isn't a spy, nor does he work for some kind of government agency. He's mostly on his own out there, basing all of his actions on some kind of moral code that he has set for himself. He's so good at what he does that he's essentially a superhero, and it is absolutely amazing watching him kick tail throughout the movie. It's especially pretty awesome to watch the slower moments in the film as well, where there's clearly a million things going on in his head that you're just kind of trying to follow, but he's constantly miles ahead of you anyway. A second viewing of the film would easily clear a few things up. From a strictly cinematic approach, The Accountant is also made very well. Great cinematography, especially when it comes down to filming and editing a good action sequence, and assortment of great acting from a long list of actors and actresses that already have a proven track record with performances, which all around makes this film memorable in almost every department. Before I talk about the Hollywood problem with autism, I did want to mention that the film does do a few things right in this department too, especially with the small moments regarding Affleck's character and his inability to deal with certain sensations. This is very accurate in general. His character goes through a brutal but daily regimen of forcing himself to experience bombarding and uncomfortable sensations that would otherwise bother him in a controlled environment, just to be ready for anything that the real world has to throw at him. That part is kind of an embellishment and part of what makes his character feel more like a superhero than an actual human being, but I digress. Another aspect of this film, blink and you'll miss it, is his character talks about certain feelings that he has that he cannot express, and has a problem socializing because of it. That's also very accurate, but it's mostly swept under the rug in order to prioritize the rest of the movie, which feels kind of like Rain Man, but the epic action movie remix. The Hollywood problem with autism, as I had mentioned before, mostly has to do with the idea that if Hollywood makes a movie focusing on a autistic character, 9 times out of 10, this specific individual is a savant. That tells me that Hollywood has no interest in autism, or at least how it's normally seen. Savants exist, sure, absolutely, but most people with autism are not savants. It's painting an invalid image of what autism is around the world. I tell somebody that I have a child with autism, and what do? They start asking if he can play Beethoven's entire repertoire on the piano yet. No, no, but he can play Xbox better than I can, and he is way ahead of where he should be at math at his age, Not savant level, but still. Having autism in a way is like having a superpower, but you don't need to embellish it and make it unrealistic in order to make sure people understand that. Then again, isn't that just what Hollywood does anyway? Embellish, extenuate, fictionalize? So in the same breath, does it really matter that much that they don't showcase autism as well as they could? I'm honestly not sure. I do know, however, that as a movie on its own, it's very well made and exciting, so who am I to judge? Now, from a technical, unbiased viewpoint, again, I have to praise a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes, especially in terms of cinematography, editing, action, acting from all the leads here, even in terms of writing when it comes down to building the mystery at the heart of the film. I would say it's flawed, specifically in terms of realistically showcasing autism, and because of that, people might get offended, even though it is Hollywood, and that might not ultimately matter at the end of the day. So my unbiased score is 84%. As for how I personally felt of the movie, or my bias score, that's honestly where it's at. This movie is trying to be more entertaining than anything else, with a slight twist on the typical spy or espionage subgenre, and I'd say it works. I had a lot of fun with the movie, I thought it was well made, and it had an assortment of cast members that I thought gave it their all overall. Even though I don't think it represents autism in a super realistic light, I would watch it again in a heartbeat. This score is 96%. When combined, we come down to that final rating for The Accountant, which is 90%, 90 out of 100 possible stars. Now, have you guys seen The Accountant? If you have, I would like to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie.